Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of All Things NBA from A to Z. I'm Kris Pursiainen. Our show is presented by Ballislife, and this is our first in-season episode of the 2024 to 2025 NBA season. Boys, holy crap. We made it. We survived. Basketball's back on our TVs. I'm here alongside Zak Noble and Albert Nguyen as always. And today, we are going to be testing the chains of the NBA teams that have gotten out to the hottest starts. We are going to be seeing if this is for real or if it's that Timu, that that Amazon Prime, that you know what I'm talking about. We're going to see if these teams just had an easy schedule, just had a hot shooting start, or we're going to see if that is a squad that is ready to contend for real. Albert, man, you're the numbers guy. Give me a number one or two.
Two.
All right, we're going with the Western Conference first. We'll start with the team on the Western Conference. I think I think we're contractually obligated to start with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, they are sitting still undefeated, and I gotta say, they beat the Nuggets down. Like they made the Denver Nuggets look silly, and that was our first impression of this Thunder team. Al, I'll start with you. What do you make so far of SGA and his new friends that he gets help from? Alex Caruso, Isaiah Hartenstein on this roster as well. We have not necessarily seen this Thunder team at anywhere close to their full anything. Especially because Hartenstein has not played, but like they look good.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about whether the diamond is real or rough or fake, OKC is 100% real. I mean, a lot of people were really hyped about this team heading into the season anyways, right? They finished first in the West last season. They shipped out Giddy and they brought in Caruso and Hartenstein. Like those are two very big upgrades in their top seven, top eight potentially. So it's a really good team that's made not only for the playoffs, because I think they are going to make another second round or third round run. If chips fall where they fall, maybe they make the finals, but they are also what's important for this discussion and for betting purposes is they're they're made for the regular season as well. A lot of that is great coaching. A lot of that is a superstar that is in his physical prime, super young and Shea. And the rest of the team is really young. We've seen a huge leap now, maybe not a Paolo Banchero leap. We have seen a big step forward for Chet Holmgren. And so I'm super excited for this team. The only knock or the only, I guess, criticism I have of them is they're only making about 10 threes a game. That's not going to be sustainable in this day and age, 2024 basketball. Let's see, they attempt 38. So they're middle of the pack in terms of attempts, but they're only making 10. So they need to definitely improve that, only shooting at 27.6% from 3-point range. But the fact that they're still killing everybody without, being hot from the outside is a really good sign for them because I think shooting will come around.
And Zach, Chet Holmgren, man. I mean, against the Atlanta Hawks, he had 25, 9, and 4 assists. Like, he's doing the thing that we talked about preseason, as in, like, can you come out and be the real number two option on this team? The Thunder beat the Bulls, unsurprisingly, by 20 points. In that game, Jalen Williams had 24, 9 boards, and 8 assists. I mean, Zach, you and I talked about how important Chet and J Dub are to the Thunder being a real playoff team, not just a regular season team. What do you make of their starts to this season for OKC?
Dude, I'm loving the way Chet's looking. And I always say percentages don't mean as much at the beginning of the year. I mean, to what Albert said, he's dead on. I mean, the 3-point percentage is the biggest concern for this team, but they look incredibly polished. They do need to work on the 3-point shooting. Chet's playing amazing, but he's only shooting 20% from three. SGA is looking like the MVP, and he's only shooting 30% from three. It starts there. Caruso can't make a three to save his life either.
Lou Dort's their only guy that's shooting above league average right now. He's at 45%. So it's going to come down to that to be able to compete with like the Celtics to be the lead of the elite. But they're the number one defense in the NBA. They're number one in turnovers. They're second in offensive turnovers. So they're taking care of the ball. I mean, it looks like a fully furnished offense just gelling already. Hartenstein shouldn't take much to get integrated here, but I love everything about this team. And again, the percentages, like I'm more concerned about the attempts. They got to get those attempts up because I just think the other teams at the top, that's the way the league's working right now. I mean, you have to be at least top 7 in 3-point percentage, at least, and then attempts should be even higher than that to fully compete with the Celtics, the staple of the NBA right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes down to their upcoming schedule, I mean, they're about to go up against the Spurs, Trailblazers, Clippers. This is a team that's going to continue to get out to a hot start from what it looks like on the schedule. Yeah, they've got some tough games after that. I mean, they play Orlando's defense and the Denver Nuggets, but we saw how they made quick work of them the first time. Houston, Golden State. Yeah, maybe they'll sprinkle some losses in, but I think this team gets out to a hot start, continues to get out to a very hot start. I think we are unanimous in saying that this team is for real. Western Conference first team addressed. That means we've got to go to their counterpart next up in the Eastern Conference. And Zach, you know you're first up for the Boston Celtics. You knew you'd be first up, man. And I think what's most important to talk about with the Celtics so far is the fact that when you look at their wins, right? Because their record is 4-0. When you look at their wins, yeah, there was a tough battle against the Pistons, but they beat the Bucks by 11 and they beat down the Knicks on opening night. They're beating tough teams when it matters. What do you make of their start to the season?
Listen, I don't care how much you're beating teams by, especially early in the year, uh, just because there's so much variance right now. But 4-0 and they haven't missed a beat. I mean, they're actually looking even better than last year, minus Chris right now, and it's just crazy they can get even better with him added to this lineup. But I mean, Tatum, I mean, 51, 42, 70, 29 points. Like he's in the MVP convo. I mean, only through 4 games, but like this team is poised the way they're playing. Like I said before the year, they could win 70 games if they played Tatum and Brown each 75 games. And Derek White, one of Derek White or Drew Holiday's playing 75 as well. I think they have the goods and the depth to do it this year. Their depth, you can argue, isn't great, but like I just think they play so well together, and the system supplements like how bad some of these towards the bottom of the bench guys are, and then we'll like I think Baylor Shireman will pop out and give us a 25 piece in the middle of the year or something. Luke Cornett will be good for it when Kristaps is out. So I just am so impressed with. I mean, there's no slowdown for these guys. Like literally, they've gotten even better. They're taking the season so seriously right now, and I said this when the in-season tournament got implemented. Like that's the biggest benefit is these guys are taking the beginning of the year way more serious, and like throughout the league, I think the play has increased incredibly. People argue about the play style. Yes, that's where you can push back a little bit, the play style being
I hate
annoying.
that whole debate. I think
I
it's
do
so dumb.
too, but like regardless of the play style, the quality of basketball is excellent right now.
Al, I want to go right to you. What do you think about the takes flying right now about the style of play in the NBA? People not wanting to watch the three pointers. To me personally, the way they're creating those three pointers is the same basketball we've loved for decades. Like it's just a different ending to the play. Before there was a 3-point line, you had Rick Barry shooting underhand from the baseline, damn it. And like everyone was like, wow, this is sweet. There's a big man. Well, this is what it looks like when the game changes. Things are different. And I don't think that teams leaning into math is some sacrilegious, blasphemous, sport ruining, day crushing, whatever. So, Al, analytics guy, sound off on teams leaning into analytics and why. Do you think it sucks to watch? Because I think Zach and I agree it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna really sound off to be honest, KP. I think the three of us are all on the same page. Like you mentioned, I'm a data, I'm a numbers guy. But we've always considered as basketball people shooting as a skill. So how are people gonna be criticizing, the potentially the best skill in the game of basketball, right? You dribble, pass, and shoot, and shooting is what scores points. And the fact that these guys are shooting at such a high clip and making at a high clip, it's really up to the defense. If you really want to criticize anything, I would start criticizing the defense who know what Boston is all about and who know what the Rockets were all about 7, 8 years ago, who know what the Warriors were about 10 years ago. I mean, it's been an evolution, and I don't think the evolution is going to change. That doesn't mean a team is going to end up shooting 75 threes in their next 5 years, but it wouldn't be surprising, right? Because at the end of the day, it's trying to score the most points. And we've seen that evolution or that progression happen in every sport, right? NFL used to be all about running. It used to be all about those running backs, Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders before that, as well. Like they were getting 25, 30, 35 carries a game. People realize like that is not the most efficient way to play offensive, you know, football in that case. And in this case, it's not the most efficient way to always dump it down and go for contested twos. So why not just swing the ball around, get the defense off balance, and shoot a wide open three? So back to the subject at hand, I would say both these teams, OKC and Boston, are completely 100% authentic, diamond, eternally flawless. Like you can't give them enough adjectives, right? These are two really, really good teams. I would say the caveat, though, because of Boston's game 1 blowout of New York, their 3-point numbers are a little bit inflated right now. Not too much because we all know they're going to continue to shoot a lot and they're going to continue to make a lot. But right now they are far and away, leading the league. They have 3.5 more threes made per game than everyone else. They're taking 3 more 3-point attempts than everyone else. I think that's going to normalize a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised if, they finish in the top 3 or 4 in terms of makes and attempts anyway. So true, very, very authentic, genuine, eternally flawless diamond team. And the best thing that happened to them is not only two of the top two players, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, being completely motivated after one being snubbed from the Olympic team and one not playing on the Olympic team, but Joe Mazzulla, right? Like a lot of people think that he was given this roster and given this team, and there's probably some truth to that, but he's also maximizing their talents and their efficiency. So Joe Mazzulla himself, I think, should be the runaway favorite for Coach of the Year.
Okay. Okay. That's the take to start the year off, man. I think Missoula's good. And I tweeted this the other week. I was like, I think he seems to be a very good coach. Um, it was what he said in response to the Knicks trades this summer. He was like, that we take that as a direct challenge. Like we see that and we see, okay, we're the standard. They're building to beat us. I think to me, he saw what happened out west with Minnesota and Denver, right? Denver ended up being like, yeah, that team was built to beat us, and they did. Congrats. Like they like diminished it almost, Missoula's like, nah, like that's credit to us. We're the standard, but now it's time for us to keep raising that standard instead of just trying to meet it because other people are going to meet us there. I think he's good. I made a video on TikTok yesterday when Tatum and AD won player of the week for the first time, the first player of the week this season. Al, I talked about you in it saying how you talked about AD being potentially top 5 in the league on our episode over the summer and how he's really backed that up so far. The Lakers, man, they're running 40% of their half court offense through AD, 20% through LeBron, 20% through Reeves. All right. Last year, those figures were about 30 AD, 30 LeBron, 20 Reeves. So this is the first time that we've had that real gap. And I know triple S, right? Small sample size to start the season, quintuple S, damn it. But that said, it looks different for the Lakers. And that's why they are where I want to go next in this discussion. Stay on our topic of teams with hot starts, but go back out to the Western Conference. The Los Angeles Lakers, man, they lost last night to the Phoenix Suns by 4 points. But regardless, they're off to a good start. They're 3-1. And you saw last night in that game against Phoenix, AD 29 points, Reeves 23, LeBron 11, Rui 20. That was a weird LeBron game. So my first question here is going to definitely be about LeBron James. Albert, I want to know if you think he's declining. And I know we always say this, but is it actually happening? And two, just do a little like 500-kilometer victory lap for me on Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Davis, I'll start with him. I think the biggest thing JJ Redick has done for this team is unlock Anthony Davis to be the best player. He's always been one of the most talented players in the league. He showed over Olympics he's the best defensive player, right, that we have going on because he can guard 1 to 5. But JJ Redick basically was like, AD, this is your team. I know LeBron James and his star power and his historical numbers is going to be the front page story, but that doesn't mean anything because at the end of the day, you're going to average 30 and 15 with me. You're going to shoot threes. You're going to get to the free throw line, and we're going to run offense through you. And he's been doing that amazingly so far. The other person he's unlocked is Rui, right? Rui has played really well
He's
to
taking
start the year.
that next step that
He's
JJ.
definitely taken the step now to be a potential fourth best player on the league, on the team. Sorry, I think Austin Reeves is still the number 3 option. But yeah, back at the LeBron. I mean, just 2 games ago, he was the first player in NBA history to have 15 plus points, 5 plus rebounds, and 5 plus assists in the fourth quarter while shooting 6 for 6. So I don't think he's declining. I would say you're not going to see 25-year-old LeBron every single night anymore, which is natural, right? The guy is turning 40, so it makes sense. That was a bad game last night against the Suns. That was a really weird game because they had already played. It's a rematch, it's a revenge spot at home for Phoenix. I thought Phoenix was going to blow them out. I was actually more impressed that the Lakers kept it closer than they did. So props to JJ Redick. I think he has this team going in the right direction. He's also given D'Angelo Russell kind of like confidence that he's going to get minutes and he's going to play, and I think that's a big deal for him. So I think this team is real in terms of, we're doing the diamond tester thing, but their ceiling is not, contender in the West still. Their ceiling, in my opinion, is still 4th or 5th seed, and I think with JJ Redick's leadership, I think they can get a playoff seed instead of having to play in a play-in tournament.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a team that has a chance to make Laker fans feel vindicated, to make Laker coaches of the past look silly. They got clowned over the offseason, in part by this guy, because LeBron threw on the Knicks towel in the regular season, and he was starring in his own telenovela on national TV. All the drama about, oh yeah, Brian Windhorst, he does everything on purpose. The Knicks towel was on purpose. He's trying to pressure the Lakers front. Yeah, guess what they did, man? They stood pat and drafted in the first round, and they drafted Bronny in the second round. That was their moves for the summer. That's what we got. Like, and the team looks good. So who's the asshole? Is it Ham? Is it?
It's 100% Ham. It's Ham.
Go for it.
JJ Redick has his fingerprints all over this team, and it's special. Like, you wouldn't imagine a guy could come in and do this 4 games in with a veteran laden team like this, and guys that are pretty stuck in their ways, like D'Angelo Russell, AD and LeBron especially. You would think there would just be lineup tinkering and a little bit of that, but like, he is getting the best version of Anthony Davis in his entire career. When I said in general, like, AD and LeBron guys could be complacent and just chilling and kind of relaxing a lot. Last year, they wouldn't have fought back like they did last night against Phoenix. Like these JJ's putting the dog back in these guys. Like, sure, I might be giving this guy way too much credit. But honestly, the structure, the play style, like there's plays being ran here. There's just a structure this team needed, but I love the pecking order. Okay. I mean, AD clear and far by what like the MVP of this team, making him the focal center point, and LeBron's even backing off and making the right decisions, not shooting too many shots because it's all about AD. It's like how Doc Rivers had it about Embiid when Harden was with him, and like it worked, but a lot of people didn't like it, and it was annoying at times because it held back from Harden and Maxey going ballistic at times. But that's what the Lakers need to do because I don't think they have a Harden Maxey on this team. LeBron's not that guy anymore. But the fact that Austin Reeves is leveling up like this, like Austin's been phenomenal too, and it's fitting. And the growth is a fit. It's not like forced in there. Rui, just well placed above D'Angelo Russell too in the pecking order at number 4. So everything looks seamless right now. I can't believe how serious JJ has taken every single minute of this, from losing a game to just every time out. Like the dude is locked in. Like I knew he'd be great, but like
I wasn't sure he'd be great, and I love JJ Redick, and I loved his breakdowns of the game. I loved the way he saw basketball. I loved that as a former player, he was so willing to loudly say or loudly buck the trend of former players saying, I trust my eyes more than any numbers. Analytics are ruining the game, whatever. JJ was like, I trust my eyes. They got me to where I am, but I also trust facts, and I
Mhm.
want to know them all before making decisions. That said, we've done all of this praise, but we've danced around the question, is this team for real? Are they a contender in the
I'm not willing
NBA
to go
this
there
season?
yet. Not
They're
willing
not
to
a
go there yet.
contender. I think it's just a talent thing, right? JJ Redick, like we mentioned, has unlocked players like AD and Reeves and Rui, but they're not going to be contending against Minnesota and OKC and those teams. So he's doing great, but I think if they're going to move forward with this trio of LeBron, AD, and Austin Reeves, I do think Austin Reeves is their third fiddle there. Um, they're gonna have to make a move for an elite 3-and-D guy. I mean, just from a mathematical standpoint, they definitely do not shoot enough threes. They're bottom 5 in attempts. They definitely do not make enough threes, even though LeBron's shooting it well. I think they just need to average maybe 2 more threes a quarter. Just having 8 more threes would catapult this team to top 10 in terms of attempts, and that would really, really unlock what they can become. Because I think AD's mentioned it for a couple years now, guys. He wants to play the 4. He wants to have a center next to him. But that center needs to be shooting threes because AD's only going to average 1 to 2 threes a game anyway. So to answer your question, I think they are real in terms of who they are, but their ceiling is exactly what I think all 3 of us believe in. Is like they're not going to contend. They're going to be a potential playoff team.
Yeah, I'm
All
gonna
right.
second that. I just think the difference between them and like the Thunder, who have the same 3-point issues, you can say the reason why the Thunder can cover it up because of their youth and depth, and they're excellent in an area. Like they're excellent in defense right now. They're excellent everywhere besides shooting the 3, where the Lakers are basically just average or above average everywhere besides defense, and they're below average on defense. Like you don't need to be good at defense early in the year, but it's sure going to help and separate you if you're elite. If you're elite in anything, it's going to separate you. But average to middle, like you'll be separated out from the pack by the end of the year. We'll put it that way. And the only way this Laker team can get better and be a real contender would be as if D'Angelo Russell got much better. Because I think everybody we're seeing, even through the small sample size, yes, LeBron can be a little better, but how much? I mean, the dude's shooting 39% from 3, good everywhere, averaging 20, 8 assists a game. Like, how much more can this version of LeBron give? Like the AD's peaking right now. I still don't think they have enough. So I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, 3-and-D
they're
would be
one
excellent.
star away. They're 1 star away. I know we don't like the 3-star method, right? Like everyone's moving forward with two and then great role players around them, but LeBron even with all of his greatness and everything he's accomplished, he's not a top 8 guy, right?
The pieces have to fit too
I
if you're
just
going
I
Yeah.
three
just had
stars.
this discussion yesterday. If you guys know Lucas Kaplan, I love that kid and he's a lot of fun to talk ball with. We were just talking yesterday about how like at what point does the legacy deference wear off? At what point do we say AD is better than LeBron at basketball right now? So is Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum is probably better than Kevin Durant in the same way that a guy like Donovan Mitchell might be better than LeBron or KD at this point. Like they're still really, really good. James and Durant are still really, really good. But
Yeah.
if I had to pick a guy for one game, yeah, LeBron, sure, right? Like that said, I think Curry might be the only one of those three, the old guard of Curry, Durant, James. I think he might be the only one left that I like firmly believe is in the top 10 in the NBA.
Watch out for Harden, man. That comeback's real. That comeback's real.
Oh, this
Um,
guy, this guy,
I
this
just want to
guy.
say, like, this Lakers team, like, when I think about actually contending and I look back on teams, a couple teams that come to mind, like, from a talent perspective, I mean, the Miami Heat the last couple of years with Jimmy Butler, and then the Phoenix Suns, Chris Paul and Devin Booker. But, like, I think this Laker team is as talented, if not more talented than those teams. The difference is those teams were elite at something. Okay. This Lakers team has yet to figure out where they can be elite. Um, and the Suns team fit absolutely perfectly.
I think that was a very good metaphor. I think Miami with Jimmy Butler, I don't know what when you mention elite, I don't know what aspect of the game, but to me, Miami's elite aspect is coaching. And
Right.
maybe we're undervaluing what JJ Redick and his staff is continue or starting to build here in LA. I would challenge back or push back on the Phoenix example because I mean when it was Chris Paul and Book, they were the best closing team in the NBA, but they had Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, they had a young DeAndre Ayton. Like they had a lot more talent than this Lakers team. So I know AD is great and you guys know I think he has the potential to be a top 5 all NBA first team, all star, top 5 MVP, like all that, especially the way he can play defense as well. But because of his playing style, which is not shooting enough threes, he's going to need someone else by him that shoots a lot of threes. Like if they somehow had gotten Klay Thompson, right, just to sit in the corner and shoot 10 threes a game, which is what he's doing for Dallas, literally he's playing 29 minutes and shooting 10 threes a game, that would be a huge impact on the Lakers. They just need a player like that.
I think that the wait, I'm still caught up on what you said, Al, about like the 2-star versus 3-star thing. Because for me, I feel like the secret formula to that is having a third star that no one thinks is a star. Like, look at Derek White. That guy is
Yeah.
bringing
Or
you
Drew Holiday. Yeah.
star level impact.
I
He's
mean,
just,
Austin Reeves is that guy.
I'll ban you from this show. I'll ban you forever. We're gonna put you on.
I've
we're,
I
been
mean,
banging
when the
that.
Nuggets won it, so it was clearly Jokic and Jamal. Who was the third guy in your opinion? Was it AG or was it Michael Porter Jr.?
So
uh,
like
AG then.
offensively, sure, it's Michael Porter Jr., but the star level impact guy was AG. At
See, I
first,
agree.
it was
Yeah, I
that
agree.
combo. Like first they had Jeremy Grant, right? Back way back when, like 3 years ago or whatever. But then it kind of went to like AG plus Bruce, and then it became like AG plus KCP was like enough. Like now we're watching them struggle because they don't have that star caliber role player or two role players that could add up to a star. Let's keep it rolling though, because if the Lakers, we're saying it's like it's real gold, but it's not diamond, it's not that top tier. I'm curious what you guys will have to say about this Eastern Conference team that we have coming up next. I want to go to the Orlando Magic because Paolo Banchero is playing fascinating basketball this season, and it's really, really fun to watch.
How about that 50 bomb? Man, that thing was electric. He is evolving to a I said he could be a top 10 player at his best. I mean, the way he's coming out this early, I mean, yeah, we're 4 games in, but the dude's looking like he can almost be a top three guy eventually. I forget who said this earlier today, but I heard somebody say he's the best guy at this size since LeBron. So that's 6'8", 6'10-ish, not including KD, a little taller, lengthier, obviously, but outside of that, I think that's a very true statement. He's got the overall goods, and
I mean, yeah, it's true, but like, what, what about if the qualifier was best guy this size or bigger,
it's
then
a
like
small
we're
group, but
talking about Wemby, we're talking about I don't know. I understand the stat because it's trying to give credence to the fact that he's not a center and like he doesn't have a crazy height advantage. It just feels a little bit like I don't know, Jake Bobo always scores a touchdown when it's raining on a Tuesday the week before a 4:05
God
p.m.
damn
kickoff. Like it's if it feels a little cherry
don't
picked.
give me the Jake Bobo here. The
Go on, go on.
the guy's gotten up to 6 assists a game. That's what I wanted to see out of him more than
That's
anything.
that's
I
tough.
mean, that's what I kind of expected out of him. It's the points per game I don't think is necessarily that sustainable yet. I mean, I think he can stay at a 28-ish, 28-9, but he's going to need more for this team to be a more than a second round team. Like, yes, this is the Paulo show we're seeing. Franz hasn't looked much better than last year to me, but yeah, I think this team is still a first round, second round team, but he's taken the leap this team needed. I do agree on that. Up
Yeah,
to
Wow.
a career high
he's
39% from three. I also want to know.
yeah, he's taken a monumental leap. I think a lot of it is going to be I'm not trying to hate because I do like Paolo a lot, but it's going to be a little inflated just because he just had a 50-point game, right? So his numbers are going to take a minute to adjust and normalize in the next couple weeks. So he's going to be, I guess, labeled better than he is just because of that 50-point game. Unless he has another 50-point game, then maybe if he can do another 50-point game, then he is that good.
Is this the Le Batard bit?
Yeah, but
He'll
I would
never
say
have 50 points. He had 50 points. He'll never do it again. He'll never do it in the
he's such a
playoffs.
different player. He's such a different player than LeBron James. I know we made that comparison in terms of height and weight, but to me, he's more of like a Carmelo Anthony, right? He's more of a
Yeah,
Way
bucket
better
getter.
passer.
I like that
Yeah,
take though.
yeah, and if he is gonna be as clutch as he was last night, then he's gonna, get that Carmelo Anthony moniker even truer. Is this Orlando Magic team real in terms of the diamond tester? Zach mentioned it. If you are elite at one thing, it's going to separate you from the rest of the pack. And they are elite at defense. They're going to end up being a top five defensive team with that personnel. They were already great last year with Suggs and Isaac and, guys buying in. And they added KCP to play defense as well. So this is going to be a really good team. It's also a very top heavy conference, right? If we're talking about Boston, New York, potentially Philly, potentially Milwaukee. So it's going to be hard for them to make a conference finals. But I don't think that's like a measure of failure or success. I think that's what it comes down to in the NBA is sometimes you may be better, but you're not going to make the finals, right? That's how I view the Mavericks, for example. I think they're a better team this season than last season, but it doesn't mean they're going to run through the West like they did last year. So I think the Magic, as long as they continue to improve and the trajectory is positive and upwards, I mean, that's all you can ask for a team that's basically homegrown their talent. I know they signed KCP, but everyone else, for the most part, have been drafted or, you know, or trades on draft night. So props to them. I think they are a real team. I think their ceiling is conference finals. To me, they'll make the second round.
I like it. I like it. Oh, oh, KCP was a big ad for them because he does stuff at a high level that they didn't have. They have Paolo and Franz connective passing and high IQ and all the nerd buzzwords, right? But who's finishing those plays? Right? Like now it's KCP in the corner, baby. Corner pocket. Cash. I like it. And they got Tristan Da Silva they brought in too. Zach and I were joking about him on the the preseason show, but in all seriousness, like he's played several years in college. He's coming in, can fit a role early too. So they've got depth now. And Anthony Black is working his tail off to try and get better. You know, I can tell you, having spoken to a coach that had to game plan against Anthony Black in college, his strategy was, I'm just going to pretend like he doesn't know what a three-pointer is. I'm going to pretend like he completely cannot shoot. He won't even shoot. And then we adjust the rest from there because that he thought gave him his best chance. And now you look in the NBA at what the league has become about on a macro level. It's about winning closeouts, right? And in the playoffs, it's about winning closeouts and scheme versatility. And to get closed out on in the first place, to even win the closeout, you've got to be able to shoot that thing. So KCP is a huge ad for the Magic because they had
atrocious though.
They had playmakers, but they didn't have play finishers other than Wendell Carter Jr. Yeah, sure. It took him until his second game to hit his first three of the year. He hasn't been great shooting so far. I just don't care, honestly. I'm not going to do the thing where I pretend like someone who's a great career shooter goes to a new team and like forgets how to shoot.
Fair.
He's just Jokic is surgical. He was putting that ball exactly in the 2 millimeter margin of error that KCP had to naturally begin his shooting form. He's got stuff to get used to. New city, biggest payday of his life, new guys passing him the ball, new teammates, new coaches. I'm going to give him time to settle. I think the Magic are a legit team. And I, like Albert said, I think they're better than they were last year to a meaningful extent. That said, I'm not calling them a contender by any means. They're not there yet. And that's perfectly okay. Perfectly okay. Anyone else? Anything else on the Orlando Magic?
They're better than the Vucevic 10-3 starts. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
They're better because those happened quite frequently with Nikola Vucevic. So they're not going to start.
Yeah, one caveat I want to bring up, and I don't want to feel like I stole this, but my colleague Matt Moore from the Action Network.
Yep.
He talks about how Orlando is kind of a big home court advantage. Again, I haven't really looked into these numbers yet, but it's usually a two-step of Miami, Orlando, or Orlando, Miami for teams going into Florida. And so they have plans, right, when they go to the South Beach. So that's either before and after a Orlando game. And so these players, these big-time players usually take Orlando lightly. So that's a really, potential spot from a betting angle, from a, projection angle that now that they have the team and they have the personnel to take advantage of it, right? Like they're going to be able to maybe catch some teams on a sleepy night or a flat spot. So just want to shout that out to Matt.
I want to ask you guys, is this version of Jalen Suggs better than peak Marcus Smart? Marcus Smart.
No?
Marcus Smart was able to run an offense.
Right,
I agree.
It
wasn't more than just defense. He was also
this guy can shoot the fuck out of the ball compared to Marcus Smart, though.
Yeah, I think it's
now
it's a valid comparison because of size, the impact they have on defense, but offensively they're different players.
My Suggs comparison in terms of, I mean, you guys know what it is, right? In terms of Boston Celtic off-ball players is Derek White. Yeah, I think that's the level he can get to one day where no one in the league thinks he's a star except for 30 head coaches. And that's good enough for me. That's good enough for me. Let's go back out west for our penultimate team in today's discussion. And the penultimate team will be the Phoenix Suns, who just beat the Los Angeles Lakers last night. I hate to start out on this note, but it is important to the point I'm about to make. which is Bradley Beal, who was always one of my favorite players because I loved him and John Wall when I was getting into the NBA. John Wall had me rocking Reeboks to school, man. But like Beal is doing the Kemba Walker thing where his pull-up jumpers are hitting the front of the rim. And it's worrying me that it might be, you know, he might not have that lift in those calves anymore. He might not have the torsion in those thighs to really push that ball forward. I mean, the It's Over report, ball, shout out to them. It might be time. That said, they're still playing good basketball. And the bench unit looks way better than it did last year because alongside Grayson Allen comes Ryan Dunn, who shot 20% from three in college. And if he shot 20%, you were like, you know what? That was good. That was a good game. He's like 6 of 15 to start the year from three, or 7 of 15, something silly like that. Their bench looks good. And Booker, even he got in some foul trouble, he's playing really well. And KD's just being KD, which is good enough for me. So they look good. I'm not going to say this team is a legit contender, but I do think this start is real.
I think they're a legit contender. That's kind of my hot take for this podcast. I think what you're saying about Bradley Beal is justified. But they don't need him to be 2018 Bradley Beal. They need him just to be a third fiddle, and he's doing really good, bringing the ball up, starting the offense. I do think his shooting is going to come around, right? This is a guy that has missed a ton of games in the last 2 to 3 years. If he can stay healthy and play 60 or 70 games, he's only going to improve as his conditioning and his basketball fit comes back. So I'm not too worried about Bradley Beal because he's your third option. It's really going to be on Devin Booker, because if Devin Booker is going to take that leap to be a top 10 guy, he needs to do what we're seeing in front of our eyes with the Lakers is AD is now the bona fide best player on that team for LA. And if Devin Booker goes to KD and says, "This is my team, I'm going to be the best player on this team. Follow me," I think that's going to be beneficial for that team long run, because then you have a potential best number two option ever in Kevin Durant. So I do think they have a shot at contending. Again, this team is not built for the playoffs though, because their depth is not great and their star player in Kevin Durant is older. Bradley Beal has a big injury risk injury. So they're not built for the playoffs, but and it's a big if they're healthy in the playoffs and peaking, they are going to be, in my opinion, the toughest out in the West, because no one's going to want to play those three when healthy and clicking on all cylinders. So I think they're a contender. What is contender really defined as? To me, it's top four of the conference, and I think they have that in their ceiling.
Okay, Zach, where are we at on Phoenix?
It's tough for me to say this early, being these guys are oldish, and Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Nurkic. And they just looked it in the playoffs last year, especially Durant, more than anything. But I mean, the way they're playing now, I love how much attention to defense they're playing with. Budenholzer's got them locked in on that end. It's the best defense they've played in, I don't know, 3 years in Phoenix, maybe. They really are making a huge emphasis on that, and just it looks a lot more smooth and together than it did last year, where it was three guys isoing a lot more. I think he's making an imprint on this offense a little bit. Tyus Jones more than anything, though. I mean, they got somebody that is for sure taking the ball up every time. They know who's in charge of taking the ball up the court and then putting everybody else in their rightful positions, you can say, where they like to be on the basketball court. They are better than the Lakers right now. I do like the Lakers' depth a little bit. But yeah, I don't think this team's a real contender unless they get another really good bench piece. I think they're missing a small piece, but they're a team that could win if there were injuries and whatnot. I definitely believe they have the goods. KD's playing good enough now, but will he be?
KD had 4 blocks, 4 assists, 8
Yeah,
rebounds, and 30 points.
right. No, he can still be great. Just like James Harden can still be great. LeBron can still be great for a game, or a couple of games, but can it last the entire season? Like Albert said, it'd probably be better if Devin Booker was their number one option. As of right now, yeah, team looks great with KD as the number one option, but I tend to lean that way as well. I would set it more last year than I do now, but Devin Booker is going to need to take the bulk of the role, the number one role, towards the end of the year. So KD's legs can be well rested, I guess you can say, or I don't know, warm enough. Just keep those legs warm enough.
All right, man. All right, man. Enough from you.
Words
Let's go to a
aren't coming out
team
right.
that got out to a hot start that has plenty of young, fresh legs. It's the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they're the last team we're going to talk about today. I want to start out on the Cleveland Cavs, and I never do this, but I'm subbing myself in, damn it, because the Cleveland Cavs 2 years ago got crushed in the first round of the NBA playoffs by the New York Knicks. The biggest takeaway for me from that series was that Donovan Mitchell was not going to work for that team as a number one option. Not saying he can't work as a number one option. I'm saying, given the rest of the talent they had, Donovan wasn't good enough to carry them as a number one. That shouldn't be some crazy indictment on Donovan, right? My second biggest takeaway was that Evan Mobley was 2 years and 20 pounds away from having the impact on the game that people thought he could. Now, I thought the Mobley discourse went a little bit too far in that direction last season. People caught up, but they went too far. I know my guy Tim Bontemps did the Derek Favors comparison for Mobley, and it's like, no, I mean, it's, to me, it was clear what you see in Mobley that is more than that, ceiling wise. And here he is this season, being empowered offensively, getting the ball more. They're paying their dues early in the year, acknowledging that they are not the best team in the league, but trying to set themselves up to be the best version of the Cleveland Cavaliers by April. And I really admire that, because last year they were kind of this faux contender, acting like a contender, gaming their playoff matchups and prioritizing winning in the first round over having a better overall path to the conference finals. That said, this year, I don't know that Cleveland would do that again. That's just a guess, right? But I don't know that Cleveland would do that again, where they, lose a game on purpose to try and get an easier first round opponent.
Never.
Al, you just, reminded me too, within the chat, Max Strus has not played yet. So they still have yet to get him back. And what they have to get him back from is the ankle sprain he suffered like a week and a half ago. He's supposed to miss like a month and a half of basketball. So when he's back, they'll be at full strength. But right now, Allen, who I know not everyone on the Cleveland Cavs team loves that they extended him, he's looked good to start the year. He's impacting games and he's playing well and he's moving the ball intelligently. Mobley, they're trying to squeeze and force some of that KG out of him, telling him, bring the ball up the court, be a little more aggressive. You need to believe in yourself for us to be the best version of a team that we can be. This is a year for the Cleveland Cavs where I think they can be as good this year as people thought they would be in their first year with Donovan Mitchell. And again, that's okay. It's okay. It was really tough at first, because when you give up a Sexton and a Markkanen and the load of picks for one player, and then you win one total playoff series in 2 years and fire your coach, it doesn't look good, because it's not good. But this year, I think they've got a setup for success. I'm not going to say they're a super team, whatever, but I think the best teams in the East are the Celtics, the Knicks, the Sixers, and the Cavs when fully healthy. Milwaukee, not in my top 4 anymore. So I think the Cleveland Cavs are for real. I'm going to say their diamonds are real, even if I'm a little hesitant and I wouldn't pay full price for
I want to push back on the Evan Mobley take a little bit. I do agree it's looked that way, and I thought that way too before I dove into the numbers. like that they were giving Evan Mobley the ball in better positions, and he's taking the ball up the court a little more than he did last year. But the numbers just don't match up with that. And that's sometimes, I mean, that's definitely sometimes the case, but I think they need to do it even more. I really do. Um, I think that's where their growth is. It's really the only growth they have left is, I mean, Garland and Mitchell can play better together, but Evan Mobley just has to get much better for this team to be a true contender. I don't think there's much growth anywhere else on the team here. With that said, not Mobley, Mitchell and Garland have played great together. They look a lot more fitting than they have. They've looked forced in the years past, nor have they played that many games together in the past because there's been injuries. But I do like the usage of Mitchell going down a little bit. He's getting rid of the ball quicker. He's not dribbling as much this year so far. I hope it stays that way, and it's a lot more balanced attack under Kenny Atkinson.
So if this exercise is to find a fake diamond or a real diamond, and if the Cleveland Cavaliers' goal is to win an NBA championship in the East, I'm going to say it's a fake diamond. I'm sorry.
I hear you.
I think they're a good team. I think they are going to be limited when it comes to the superstars on Boston and Philadelphia if they were to match. And yes, they've started on fire. They're 4-0, but they've played Toronto where they dropped 136 on them, and they've played Washington where they dropped 135 on them. So their numbers are going to be super inflated for the next 5 to 10 games. The one win in New York in Madison Square Garden is completely legit. Darius Garland had 34 in that game. So I mean, props to him. But New York is also going through an adjustment period, right? Because they just brought in Karl Anthony Towns, which is a big adjustment for them. So um, I don't know. I like Cleveland as a team. I do think they've made upgrades in terms of their coaching staff. I think Kenny Atkinson is getting them to play more free. They're, I think, in the top 15 or top 16 in 3 points made and 3 points attempted, which is a big improvement. And I'll echo what these two have said. Like they're gonna go as far as Evan Mobley, right? Because at the end of the day, we know who Donovan Mitchell is, and he's a killer when it comes to the playoffs, guys. I know he didn't have a great series against New York 2 years ago, but he does step up his game in the playoffs because the rotations shorten and he just gets more shots and he's just good, right? And Darius Garland looks like he's like last year was a struggle year for him. Looks like
Hmm.
he's back. So with that being said, if Evan Mobley continues to improve, and he's never going to be the KG just because he doesn't have that type of mindset, but he has a very, very versatile skill set. And if he becomes the best player on this team in the next 18 to 24 months, then Cleveland may become a serious contender. But right now, I think with with Mitchell and Garland, who are both really good, I think they're just going to be limited when it comes to Boston and Philadelphia.
Yeah, I get it. I think last year was an adjustment for Garland to the leap that Mitchell took to actually being an all NBA caliber player. I think a lot of people for years, back to the bubble, were like Donovan Mitchell's top 10, but he never actually was. Now he is, in my opinion. Now
Mm.
he is a top 10 caliber player. Last year, all NBA top 10 caliber player. Amazing season last year. His season that he had last year was not worthy of the league's MVP, but it was the first season that he had in his career where I thought to myself, damn, he deserves a shout. Like he deserves to be on that ladder somewhere. And now going forward, it's all about just getting comfortable for them, developing that synergy. Garland, spectacular against the New York Knicks in the fourth quarter. Had like 16 or 13 points just in the fourth alone. He had like 2 steals and 2 blocks in that game. One of the blocks was a huge rejection that came
Mhm.
in the fourth quarter in crunch time. Garland is figuring out how to complement Donovan Mitchell. And I think Mitchell himself is figuring out that sometimes for the Cavs to be the best version of the Cavs, he doesn't need to take all the shots. So, with all that said, I think we are in agreement that the Cavs are actually good now. Mitchell's actually a real legit guy. That all said, maybe not a contender this season, but it's good. I think, can we agree it's a good thing that Donovan re-signed instead of jumping ship, that he
Love it.
re-signed?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Been great
I liked that a lot from him. And I,
for the league.
for sure. And
I
I
mean,
don't think,
a lot of that, Chris, is because, there was noise of him going to New York, but we see that Jalen Brunson is the real deal.
yeah,
And like
they didn't need him.
you can't mess up that backcourt with Jalen Brunson being the lead dog. So if they brought in Donovan Mitchell, that'd be completely crazy. But if if Brunson if Brunson had re-signed with New York and wasn't as good as he's been, then I think that move was kind of realistic.
Yeah, and I think he would be a Nick. just to say. But yeah, so there's 6 teams off to the hottest 6 starts in the 25 NBA season. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll be back very soon to keep talking about the 2025 NBA season. For the analytics capper, Albert Nguyen, for Zak Noble, I'm Kris Pursiainen, thanking you for tuning in to another episode of All Things NBA from A to Z, presented by ballislife.com, and saying, see you next time.